Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
My great pleasure to welcome to the program now the Mayor of the Kapiti Coast District Council, Guru. Good morning and welcome to you.
Tēnā koe, John, and hello to our listeners.
Yes, morena ata Māria. And interesting to see the reaction of the Select Committee to the petition presented by many people on the Kapiti Coast under the name of Sue Emirali to have a hospital in Kapiti. I think the petition got good marks, but no hospital. What's your reaction?
But I think I'm more interested in the reaction to my press statement on the matter from CCDHB, which said, no hospital. They are interested, which is what they've told the Select Committee last year, Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, that they are looking at service, improved services mode. Which is all fine, but my bugbear is simply this. The improved services that they're talking about is short-term planning. What we are watching regionally is the government's national policy statement on urban development, which requires forward planning by regional authorities, and Wellington has responded by the Wellington growth framework, which, empowered by further government legislation, can create urban development authorities. Mm-hmm. These can override local district plans and long-term plans and establish what I think would be very large-scale housing. And the other signal that the government has made is the intent for increased urban development in areas where they have invested heavily in roading rail infrastructure. And in Kapiti, we've got almost $2 billion worth of infrastructure development, so you would be expecting them to leverage that for development up here in the western corridor of the region. Where is the planning by the Ministry of Health and the CCDHB in those terms?
Well, it's a very good question, and they don't seem to be very forthcoming with the answer. And as
they
you
have
say,
not answered it at all.
Yes.
I mean,
so
I'm not decrying the fact that they are working towards improved services, but I think the speed in which they are working in that area is slow. We have a series of intentions to do a whole lot of stuff. One area that they've actually done quite well is the response to the 6,000 emergency trips to the Wellington Emergency Department, of which only 1,500 are admitted, which means a whole lot of others sent back home. So their response was the creation of the Kapiti Acute Response Unit, which means that when they call ambulances, the ambulance takes them to local health providers, get them checked first. And so I know that the stats shows that in the first 8 weeks that they introduced this, they dealt with the 100, and out of the 100, only 10 were then admitted to hospital.
Yes.
So it's huge savings. They've done that well.
Yes.
But there's a whole lot of other areas which stuff needs to happen. We are only know that their intention to do this and all that. So what I've said is that this is going to be a election issue, this national election. And I warn the candidates that the people who push for the petition responded from the response from the community has been 22,500 signatures. This is a huge mandate. They need to be prepared to stand up and answer the question that's going to come up on the floor.
As it happens, we're going to have a pretty new batch of candidates, I suspect, in the next election in both of the electorates that affect the Kapiti Coast. So that could be quite interesting. But I just wonder about the thing that worries me is A&E. Eventually, we're going to have a situation where Kapiti is cut off from Wellington and therefore cut off from health services. And I've got a feeling that the health centre as it is, with specialists coming out every now and again and having a few interviews, that is not going to do the job required when we need a true A&E in this area. Is that the aspect that worries you?
Well, this is one of the areas that I presented at the hearing before the Select Committee. So the question I put to them is this: is that what are the efficiencies that a centralized service at Wellington can give during normal times? And what efficiencies can we gain from a decentralized service, especially for trauma medicine in a abnormal situation with civil emergencies?
Yes,
like the
precisely.
earthquake cut off.
Right.
So the select committee has responded by raising this question and mentioning the fact that previous exercises have civil emergency exercises have not addressed it. The ministry, CCDHB, has not responded to that. But it is an issue that I will take up with the mayoral forum.
Okay, now, one of the mayors that you will meet at the mayoral forum comes from Selwyn, and I'm just having a look at the plans of the Rolleston Health Hub that the Selwyn District Council are building and leasing back to the Canterbury District Health Board. That's one initiative that's come from the mainland. Another one is the Southern Community Hospital that was built as a result of the advocacy of Blair Vining, and that was to make health services in Southern, which, by the way, aren't too bad, but to make them more accessible, make them less expensive, and particularly, of course, attend to the bowel cancer issue, which eventually took out the very brave Blair Vining. Is there any part for the community, be it the council or be it the wider community, to come up with some premises to lease back to the District Health Board and shame them into action?
Look, I think what the select committee said in terms of the response they got from the Ministry of Health is the ministry has confirmed that it would continue to plan health infrastructure and capital spend. But that's all the statement they've made. How they're going to go and do that, we don't know. So the possibility of the community itself organizing things is definitely something that we need to have a look at.
Indeed, and of course it's the time involved. I had a hospital appointment myself a few weeks ago. I wasn't on the radio. Poor old Nigel had to pull a double shift. And, a bit of examination went on for sure, but it was a whole day that I was involved in that. Where the appointment was at 10 o'clock in the morning, I didn't get home until 5 o'clock in the evening. And that has a lot of drain on productivity as well, doesn't it?
That's right, absolutely. And if you look at the mental health services, how do they travel from here to Wellington? Itself will be a challenge. And when you have an older population here, and you've got 20,000 trips to outpatient services in Wellington, which is about 12,000 patients, and they take 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to come back. I mean, the whole day is gone.
Yes,
it's a tremendous strain for it's not good for the health.
Indeed. And what about, I think we've got to mention the coronavirus, the COVID-19 now, because we have our first case in this country. It's highly likely that it is going to hit the country. I mean, it'd be a miracle if we avoided it. And in the general community, as I've mentioned, it adversely affects older people. We have more older people in Kapiti than most parts of the country. And if the health services required to treat this are in Wellington, it doesn't seem to make any sort of sense at all to try and cope with that kind of epidemic, if not pandemic, situation without having really rigorous local health facilities. Now, surely that is an argument that can be used as well.
Well, I mean, this adds to the argument about civil emergencies. So, from a council viewpoint, the situation has been closely monitored at the national level of the Ministry of Health, which is the lead agency for this type of events, and with support from the National Emergency Management Agency, which is for the regional one we have the REMO. So we are in touch with them. So, council is very clear about our role in this. Especially given the situation where there's a lot of false information and confused messages being spread. We need to be absolutely sure that the information coming out is the information that the government is putting out and being able to manage without panicking people or creating a problem with false information.
And is it your position that the role of the council you've just mentioned is purely advocacy? It doesn't go any further, doesn't go into bricks and mortar, or something more practical?
For what do you mean?
to get a hospital in Kapiti?
Look, I am talking about forward planning, and so therefore, for the CCDFG to say, hospitals out of the consideration is actually patently false. Because what's the planning regime in terms of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? And what's the growth projection? I mean, I can understand that the needs, service needs lead into that it's acceptable. They themselves admit that increased services could lead to greater investment in facilities, which means bricks and mortar. We have land here in the medical hub in Paraparaumu. There is land up in Otaki if need be.
Yes.
They're saying that hospital is not on the planning regime is actually false.
So the answer's no then? The council role is purely advocacy, in your opinion?
It's advocacy. I mean, you can say the mayor's role, the mayor's office has got a particular political role to play in this.
Well, we'll look forward to reports on that political role. And I thank you for joining us this morning, Guru. Thank you very much for your company. There we are, the Mayor of the Kapiti Coast District Council, Gurunathan.
106.3 Beach FM.